Hello everyone, this is Chadi Alraies from SIF 2023. I'm really privileged today to be with Kate Kearney, and welcome to SIF.
Thanks, Chadi. Good to be here.
Yeah, so we talk a few things about complex coronary, CTO, CHIP fellowship. But one thing we learned on the job is the complication. So tell us how, over the course of your practice, which is you are still in the early career, but how much you learn compared to the CHIP training?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, as we were just discussing, we sort of made a whole course about complications because I do think that learning how to manage things that happen in a cath lab is the biggest barrier to folks really progressing earlier in their career. So, the number one thing that was different about my CHIP training is somewhat learning particular skill sets going retrograde, ADR, whatever. But I think a lot of it is also complication management and how to prevent that, how to manage it early so it doesn't become catastrophic, recognizing all of that, and being prepared to act if you have to coil something, put a cover stent in, that's kind of what comes up more in my wheelhouse. But certainly those things and being able to manage the emotional aspect of that, of like the room closing in, like I don't know what's happening, some of that. I think a lot of that is practiced as much as anything else, and it's hard to prepare for that in any other way. So certainly I think the exposure to certain things like perforations was great. So I had a little bit more of an algorithm and important for that. And part of it is being able to practice that when you're the one, you look around and there's no one there, is very different. But I think there's a couple muscle memory things that you can do quickly. So for a perf, it's just to get the balloon up, get the kit ready, some things like that. So when you can't think at all, sort of practicing that was super helpful. But certainly the nuances of it, of when to pull that trigger, is a big part of that early growth. So I think there's no replacement for that, that's true. But I think that skill set was actually really instrumental to surviving the first few years of trying to do high-risk PCI. So one example is I, thought I wired a circ instant CTO, and we didn't have the old films of what that had looked like, and there was really no visualization. And I thought I was in the right place. Took a balloon. Clearly, in retrospect, the wire had just exited a distal small vessel, and I ballooned into the pericardium. And I couldn't believe he wasn't dead already because the perf looked so big. But we got a balloon up right away, and fortunately, he was actually being referred for transplant for refractory angina. We had never seen this stent open, so I just coiled it very quickly and was able to do that before he ever needed a drain or anything like that. And that's really embarrassing for me. There's multiple errors that were there, but the reason I was able to get through that is because I could get out of it too. So I still made a bad mistake, but the patient did okay, and that's a very different scenario. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's where, not that you don't want complications to happen, but knowing that they will, we need to find a better way to train and learn from each other's experiences. So I think that's really what we're after.
And that's why showing the complication in a platform like here, for example, I think we have a session coming up after this is about complication is very important, so we can learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a humbling career. I mean, we learn from each other. It's good to have the technique, but also to how to back yourself up.
Yeah, very good points.
Kate, thanks so much for being with us. Please watch the videos and others on SIF Conversation. This is Chadi Alraies from Scottsdale. Kate, thanks again.
Yeah, great. Thanks.